Hey, today we're going to talk about finding certain percentages of numbers. Before we even read this problem that we have, I just want to talk about percents in general. So I'm going to draw a big bar that's going to represent the total amount that I'm talking about. Well, you know that if we're talking about percents and we say this is the total, what percentage is the total? If I tell you for sure something's going to happen, you would tell me you're 100% sure. 100% represents one whole, or you're completely sure. If you know for sure something's not going to happen, that's 0%. So notice I put 0% at the very front of the bar, 100% at the very end. Well, what is halfway in between 0 and 100? Very nice, 50%. So if you're halfway sure something's going to happen, you're 50% sure. In between 0 and 50 then would be 25%. So we can use our use of our knowledge of money to help us find these halves also. Halfway between 50 and 100 then would be 75%. We could also break this down if we wanted to into sections of 10, because that's also an easy way to look at some numbers. So you know that there are 10 sections that are worth 10 each if we wanted to split it up into sections of 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So if I wanted to split this up into sections of 10, I could split it into 10 even sections. So ignoring the black lines that I put right here in the middle altogether, we could split it into 10 even sections. So this 50% line would get to be one of those 10 sections. This would be 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So notice that if you look at the blue, I tried to make them even. Some of them don't look so even. But this is 10%, 20%, 30%. I ignored that 25 because that's not one of the 10. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So let's go back and read the problem. There were 60 basketballs in the gym. Of those, 40% were available at recess. The rest were reserved for PE class. How many basketballs were for recess and how many basketballs were for PE? So if we think about this problem, there were 60 basketballs in the gym. That means that 60 is the number of total basketballs that there were altogether, and we want to find out how many were for recess and how many were for PE. So 60 basketballs being in the gym, that's the total number of basketballs in the gym. I'm going to put 60 then underneath 100%. 60 is all of the basketballs, so it's 100% of the basketballs. So not even worrying about what the question is asking us, we can fill in some of these benchmarks for what we know 50% of 60 would be. So 50% of 60 then, we know 100%, 50% is half of 100%. So to find 50% of 60, we would just split it in half. 60 split in half is 30. To find 25%, then we would split that 30 in half again. So if you think 25%, think about quarters. There's 4 quarters, so each of these 4 black line sections would be worth 1/4 or a quarter of the total. So if half of 60 is 30, well then half of 30 to get 25% would be 15. That means 75% would be 3/4 of the total. So that would be our 50% plus our 25%. 50 plus 25 gets us 75%, so 30 plus 15 gets us 45. We could also go back and figure out each of these 10%. If we wanted to go from 100% over, sorry about that, over to 10%, we would have to split 100 divided by 10, right? 100 divided by 10 is 10. So to get from 60 over to whatever's going to match for 10%, we would just say 60 divided by 10 would be 6. So each of the blue lines would be worth 6. So the first line is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 6, 18. 18 plus 6, 24. And we could keep going. If you read the problem, though, we were looking for recess to be 40% of those. So the 40% line matches with 24